Once a name whispered behind closed doors, Camilla Parker Bowles now stands in the blinding spotlight of the throne as the Queen of the United Kingdom. But behind the glittering crown lies a tale soaked in controversy, where love, power, and tragedy are tightly woven into a royal tapestry that refuses to unravel. Camilla, once branded the other woman, rose from a publicly condemned mistress to the wife of Britain's most powerful man. But what was the cost of that love? To many, she wasn't just a wedge driven into the marriage of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. She was the spark that ignited a chain of pain that pushed Diana to the edge of despair. When Diana confessed, "There were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," the world knew exactly who the third person was. Camilla didn't simply disrupt a household. She became, in the eyes of the public, a silent force behind the tragic events that led to Paris in 1907, the night when the People's Princess took her final breath in a crash that still raises countless questions. From a woman scorned to queen by his side, Camilla's journey is a blazing testament to a love that defied all, but also a symbol of a deep, unhealed wound in the hearts of millions. And now, as she reigns beside Charles, one question lingers. Is Camilla a brave woman who dared to love, or a calculated figure who walked over heartbreak to get everything she ever wanted since the mysterious death of Princess Diana? Camilla's image in the public eye has never truly been redeemed. To millions of Britons and admirers of the people's princess, Camilla is not just a woman who stepped into a royal marriage. She is the embodiment of betrayal, the shadow behind Diana's silent tears, and the root cause of a broken fairy tale that ended in tragedy. The public cannot forget the sight of Diana alone, smiling through pain, quietly enduring the fractures in her marriage to Prince Charles. And in every version of that story, Camilla appears like a silent villain, discreet yet powerful. Every time Charles was cold, every time Diana cried, people saw Camilla's presence as the underlying reason. It wasn't without cause that the public turned on her so fiercely. Letters between Charles and Camilla, leaked in the 1990s, painted a portrait of a passionate, long-running affair that continued while Diana was left battling loneliness and pressure from the royal family. While Diana was suffocating under the weight of duty and public scrutiny, Camilla retained her special place in Charles's heart. She didn't wear a crown, yet she held the future king's soul. This felt profoundly unjust, not just to Diana, but to every ideal the monarchy claimed to represent. When Diana died in a tragic car crash in Paris, that resentment exploded into outrage. There was no evidence linking Camilla to the incident, but emotionally, wow, the public saw her as part of the chain of events that drove Diana to despair. If Camilla hadn't existed, would the marriage have survived? Would Diana still be alive? These haunting questions echoed like an unspoken verdict from a nation grieving its lost princess. Even when Charles and Camilla finally married in 2005 after nearly 35 years of entanglement, the backlash did not ease. To many, Camilla could never replace Diana. She might be the king's wife, but she would never be queen of the people's hearts. Poll after poll showed Camilla among the least favored royals. She was often viewed as cold, calculating, and disconnected from the public. Media coverage painted her as a woman with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and a presence that never quite felt authentic. Even beside Charles, there was always an air of awkwardness, as if fate itself resisted blessing their union. To Diana's admirers, Camilla wasn't just the other woman, she was the woman who survived and thrived because another woman suffered. The way she moved into Clarence house, gradually embraced royal titles, and finally ascended as queen felt like a cruel twist to those still mourning Diana. Worse still, conspiracy theories emerged over the years, suggesting Camilla may have known more about that fateful night in Paris than she let on. Some speculated that she and Charles feared Diana's growing independence and her increasingly bold revelations about royal life. Again, no proof was ever found, but the court of public opinion needs no evidence to convict. And in that court, Camilla has never been acquitted. Today, as she stands beside the king, officially crowned queen, some have chosen to forget, but many cannot. The tears Diana shed, the love she inspired, and the injustice she endured still live on in the hearts of millions. To them, Camilla's so-called triumph is a wound reopened, a reminder of what was taken and who paid the price. The question now is no longer whether Camilla is queen in title. It is whether she can ever be queen in the hearts of a nation that still clings to the memory of a woman they truly loved. When Camilla finally claimed the crown she had always coveted, fate struck a cruel blow to the man who had sacrificed everything for her King Charles III. Just as he had begun to settle on the throne, a devastating revelation sliced through the royal dream like a cold blade. The royal doctors confirmed it: the king had cancer. The illness came as a brutal reminder that the crown offers no immunity from the laws of life and death. While public opinion remained divided over Camilla's presence, King Charles's health quickly dominated headlines. A monarch who had once stood firm through storms now faced the one battle no one could fight for him: time. But the illness threatened more than just Charles's life. It plunged the British monarchy into an unprecedented crisis of succession. Who would take his place, and would the heir continue to bury the past, or finally bring long-hidden truths into the light? All eyes turned to Prince William, the son of Diana, the bloodline of a fallen icon. He symbolized continuity, yet carried unhealed wounds. Would he ascend the throne in silence, upholding the legacy of a father who once turned away from his mother's pain, or would he emerge as a reformer? Bold enough to uncover the darkest pages of royal history, Charles knew his time was running out. And more importantly, he knew he could no longer control the next chapter. He could not manipulate William the way he had manipulated Camilla, or the narrative around Diana. William was no longer the obedient boy of the past. He was a man who had lost his mother under suspicious circumstances, had seen what the palace hid, and now stood on the edge of a historic decision: become a king who preserves royal silence, or one who confronts the truth head-on. Sources inside the palace revealed that William had already begun attending high-level meetings, not as a prince, but as a future king quietly being ushered into power. Camilla, behind closed doors, could not hide her unease. Though she currently bore the title of queen, she knew that once William took the throne, her influence would be greatly diminished. William had never forgotten how his mother lived in Camilla's shadow. Buckingham Palace was no longer a symbol of glamorous banquets or impeccable ceremonies. It had become a silent battlefield. Behind its ancient stone walls were strategies, sealed documents, and truths deliberately buried. And within this atmosphere of concealed chaos, King Charles, now a frail monarch grappling with death, was forced to reflect on the legacy he would leave behind. A legacy that could be branded a failure, should William choose to expose the truth. Rumors swirled that William had begun consulting with private advisors and digging into Diana's diaries and recordings, items Charles had once locked away. Perhaps he was searching for answers. Perhaps he was preparing for a radical shift in the monarchy. Or perhaps he was getting ready for a final confrontation with his father, not between two men, but between a former king and his successor. If Charles could no longer stand before the public, abdication might come sooner than expected, and William, once silent for the sake of the monarchy, would have the chance to write the next chapter in his own voice. When William ascends the throne, will he let the past rest, or will that be the day all of Britain is forced to confront what truly happened to Diana? To justice and to the truth, King Charles may never have imagined that the crown he waited a lifetime to wear would tighten around his neck in his final days. Nor could he have foreseen the most terrifying outcome: that the crown would not be passed on in glory, but under the weight of suspicion and the judgment of his own son. The House of Windsor now stands at a crossroads. And this time, it's not a political scandal that threatens it, but a crisis of truth. The crown is not merely about power, it is about trust. And once that trust is broken, neither king nor queen can expect forgiveness. While there have been countless trials and tribulations, together they have worked to ensure that they not only overcame the numerous problems, but have done things in such a way that it never affected the country in a negative way. However, it seems like the royal family has their hands full with a problem they aren't entirely sure they can overcome. This became clear right after the Queen herself made an announcement relating to King Charles's health at a recent public hearing. An announcement that the public perceived as unprecedented has left the entire country completely shaken, especially due to the fact that it came from the Queen herself, which goes ahead to depict the seriousness of the state of things in Buckingham Palace and how the royal family might be in a chokehold. If you've been paying close attention to the dealings of the royal family, you must have noticed something peculiar. The king has been making far fewer appearances in public than before. King Charles's health has been deteriorating for some time. The news of the king's bad health isn't really news, as the word has been going around for quite some time. However, it came as a shock having to hear straight from the Queen how bad it was. Normally, the royal family is known to keep things hushed, especially for news as delicate as the king's health. Yet Camilla expressed herself in public without holding back. This was very surprising, and the announcement was more than enough to shock not just the United Kingdom, but the entire world. As a matter of fact, Camilla opened up during her recent documentary titled Her Majesty the Queen Behind Closed Doors. In this documentary, Camilla showcased her first year as queen, and the documentary was supposed to provide a glimpse of how she had been tackling the issues of domestic abuse over the years as queen. She's breaking the cycle to put an end to domestic abuse forever. However, it did more than that. Apparently, it also showed a time when she visited the government house in the Isle of Man in March 2024, just a month after news got out about King Charles being diagnosed with a form of cancer. At the meeting in the government house, Camilla was being questioned about the king's health, and she had it in her mind to decide not to say anything about the matter. However, she didn't hold back on the details. Giving a reply she responded, saying that he was doing well. She also stated how the biggest issue is that managing the king's health was deterring the king from doing so much. And this was the major reason why Queen Camilla made most of the official appearances in place of the king. For an announcement that no one would ever expect, this took the entire country by surprise. While the intent behind Queen Camilla's announcement might have been to reassure the citizens of the king's health, it also gave a full glimpse of how the power dynamics are shifting in Buckingham Palace. Let's say the king is doing less than before and making fewer appearances as well. Does that affect the decision-making in the palace? For the times when a new policy was enacted, can we say that the king himself approved of it? Or was it a unanimous decision between the other royals? These are the questions that a whole lot of people have been asking. While there are citizens bothered about how the royal family's decision to push the king behind the big stage would affect the reformation of the state, there are also spotters who believe that Camilla's statement was a front to sway the country from the truth that the king's health might be getting worse. If that's the case, her announcement might have been more personal, due to a possible outburst of emotions that might have been swirling up inside her ever since. After all, let's not forget that while Camilla is the queen consort, she also is the partner of the king. That being the case, it definitely must have not been easy watching the one she loves face the harsh conditions that come with cancer. Making the announcement might have not just been to convince the people, but might have been to convince herself as well that everything is fine with King Charles. What do you think about that? It's a sad but yet pretty tricky situation, so we can only help by breaking things down so you know the full implications of the Queen's announcement and how it can redefine the fate of the royal family. How influential is the Queen's announcement? Well, you are about to find out. Stay on to get the full details. Queen Camilla and the implications of her announcement. In truth, there are a lot of theories and reactions from the citizens pertaining to Camilla's announcement. However, what each and everyone had in common was the shock and surprise on their faces. But then, for you to know just how much this announcement carries weight, it is important to know about how she took the stage to become queen consort. Obviously, in the eyes of many, Camilla's ascension to the throne isn't all white, and it's easy to see why that is the case. Apparently, this is because of several talks about the scandals between her and King Charles from when Lady Diana was still alive and married to Charles. Because of the story surrounding their relationship, the most conceived notion is that her position as queen isn't well-deserved. It is true that Queen Camilla might not have merited her seat like the other royals, but it still doesn't change the fact that she has done quite a good job as queen consort over the years. Camilla hasn't just proven herself to be a one-of-a-kind queen consort, but has also proven herself to be a good partner to the king, offering both personal and professional support where necessary. As queen consort, her role involves accompanying the king on official engagements, hosting foreign dignitaries, and representing the crown in various charitable and ceremonial functions. One can say that these are more or less a summary of what the modernized image of the monarchy is like. On her own, Camilla has also orchestrated quite a lot of events to tackle issues like literacy, domestic violence, and many others in the UK. Let's not forget how her patronage extends to organizations like the Royal Literary Fund that promotes literacy. This sets her apart as one of the most compassionate people to ascend the throne as queen. Despite all her achievements and contributions, Camilla has faced quite a lot of scrutiny from the citizens. Still, she has adapted to being on the scrutiny end, fulfilling her duties regardless. Amidst all of these, the most challenging challenge is the reformation of royal policies and laws alongside the king to fit modern times. At least that's what everyone thought. Not until word got out to the public about the king's health condition. While the public is taking the news with mixed reaction, there have also been several responses from members of the royal family concerning King Charles's cancer diagnosis. Prince William and Princess Catherine, who are known for their forward approach, released a statement emphasizing their father's resilience and unwavering dedication to duty. Furthermore, they also thanked the public for their support during his administration as king. While Prince William and Princess Catherine were able to hold back their emotions, the same couldn't be said about Prince Harry and Princess Anne. Prince Harry, despite his geographical and personal distance, issued a heartfelt statement highlighting his father's enduring commitment to the causes close to his heart. On the other hand, Princess Anne, who has a strong relationship with Charles, offers a deep glimpse into the personal side of their sibling relationship. It can almost be said that she was the one who was the most heartbroken because of the news. While Princess Anne made a few remarks, she celebrated him way more than the others did, giving a picture of a family that is unified just as much as they are diversified. At the moment, there is clearly an atmosphere of unrest in Buckingham Palace. And it should have been much easier to control if not because of the sequence with which the bad news has been springing up. While Camilla might have announced King Charles's illness, it turns out that the king isn't the only one who is sick. Apparently, the queen consort herself is facing complications with her health. Yes, you heard right. This became known to the public after the queen canceled 2 planned appearances in November. As a matter of fact, the queen was supposed to attend the annual Field of Remembrance event at Westminster Abbey and co-host a Buckingham Palace reception for the medalists of Team Great Britain alongside King Charles. However, that never happened. Instead, for the event at Westminster, she was represented by Birgit, the Duchess of Gloucester. It was later on that news came out that the Queen was sick, having been diagnosed with a chest infection. The Queen has had to cancel her engagements this week after being diagnosed with that chest infection. The reports given by the royal family were that the doctors advised a short period of rest for the Queen to recuperate. However, the public is afraid that the report might not be the full extent of the whole thing. According to a few, they believe that the royal family might be holding back details on the severity of the whole thing. Could that be the case? It's pretty much hard to say at this point. We can only take the little info that they have provided to us as it is. While matters are still arising, Queen Camilla has made sure to apologize to all those who may have been inconvenienced or disappointed as a result of her absence. Over the course of her illness, she also told them how optimistic she was that she would get back on her feet in no time. Of course, while there might be no pressure whatsoever, she is mandated to get back on her feet in earnest because she is the second in command right after King Charles. Imagine the state of the country where both the king and the queen are bedridden. Certainly, there will be a state of panic and chaos. Also, let's not forget about Kate Middleton's undisclosed form of cancer that she struggled with earlier this year. Luckily, she announced that she was able to beat the sickness in September. However, it was only after undergoing some serious chemotherapy. This goes a long way to show just how much this sickness-carrying shadow looms at Buckingham Palace. Then again, one might pause and ask, just how bad is it truly? And what could King Charles's and Queen Camilla's sickness spell for the monarchy? It gets interesting from here. Stay tuned so you don't miss out on the details. Public reactions and the monarchy's possible future. With people having different thoughts and theories about the king and queen's health and the current health status of the royal family in general, it is important to know that this sudden series of mishaps that befell the family isn't a new thing. As a matter of fact, in the past, there have been several scenarios where the top authorities faced terrible health crises. However, the public never got to hear about it till the end. Take, for instance, the rule of King George VI in the early 1950s, when he was diagnosed with lung cancer. As a matter of fact, during this time, the king's condition was largely concealed from the public, and every single detail was kept private within Buckingham Palace. This secrecy move was made so that the country would be able to preserve its image of strength. So, did that work? Definitely. However, imagine the shock on the people's faces when news got out that the king had died in 1952. This was enough proof that the monarchy had held back on the full extent of the king's illness. Even though the monarchy might have been able to save face, the lack of transparency came at a cost, washing away the trust and confidence of the people in the royal family. It is also said that history would have repeated itself with Princess Margaret, Queen Elizabeth II's younger sister. When she was alive, she faced numerous health challenges, including a lung operation and strokes later in life. You have to admit, these were all worthy of concealing from the public, but instead they were made public. These struggles of hers were what humanized her in the eyes of the public. Considering the history of the royal family, you can say this is when the royal family started to experience a shift in how they address such issues. Even though that is the case, there are still people who believe that the royal family has reverted back to the ways when King George VI was alive. According to beliefs, this measure is because of the tension and show-off power between top leading countries around the world. That being said, it's fair that the public should be stunned and a little pessimistic about how future events will unfold. Camilla, who announced the state the crown is in, seems to be the one on her feet the most. As a matter of fact, over time, she has distinguished herself as a passionate advocate for health-related causes, most especially in the realm of cancer awareness. Over the years, she has worked with charities like Macmillan Cancer Support, Breast Cancer Now, and Marie Curie. Working with these organizations, all she does is bring attention to early detection and patient support. That's not all. She also gets involved beyond ceremonial roles, presenting personal anecdotes and heartfelt appeals that show that she is genuinely committed to the cause. If you must know, while Camilla creates awareness about cancer, she definitely doesn't hold back talking about how the people close to her are affected. These few stories are what make her relatable to the common people who might be affected. Her participation in events such as the annual Macmillan Coffee Morning or visits to cancer research facilities can't be overlooked as well. Her dominance in the lower skirts of the community is what has elevated her in the eyes of the people as the queen. Now, having heard of her chest infection and how she has been struggling to keep up appearances in place of King Charles, people are starting to humanize Camilla even more, with a whole lot of people wishing her a speedy recovery. Many hope that she will make a full recovery as we enter the new year. That said, a whole lot of fingers are crossed. That aside, being that the Queen Consort is paying more attention to health matters, it is best to expect that there is bound to be a shift in the coming years concerning the issues of cancer and other diseases. There is bound to be more medical research, awareness campaigns, and support for healthcare initiatives in the UK, overseen and approved by the monarchy. Hence, what we are expecting in the coming years in the country is a total reformation of health-related policies, one that will most likely favor all UK citizens. On as grand and glorious a picture that will be, we aren't necessarily talking about the far future. What we